Education Minister Chan Chun Sing tells Parliament cost was not the main reason for the closure of Yale-NUS. Malaysia's Prime Minister strikes a deal with the opposition to return political stability to the country. And a 24-year-old man is charged over this wakeboarding incident at the War Memorial Park. You're watching The Big Story, coming to you live from the Straits Times newsroom. I'm Olivia Quay. You can subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you never miss a single episode. The de facto closure of Yale-NUS College addressed in Parliament today, the reasons why, how the decision came about, and the future of the college's students. Education Minister Chan Chun Sing telling the House that the Yale-NUS merger with NUS's University Scholars Program is part of the university's roadmap to more interdisciplinary learning. NUS has already created the College of Humanities and Sciences by bringing together the arts and science faculties, and will also merge the School of Design and Environment and the Faculty of Engineering.
NUS has charted a bold roadmap of education innovations since 2018, geared towards delivering a common curriculum with more flexible pathways and more interdisciplinary learning to develop in students greater intellectual versatility. The new college is a third important step in this roadmap. It was motivated by NUS' vision of further developing an immersive living and learning community where students majoring in over 50 different disciplines can come together to inquire, interact, and learn from one another.
Well, Mr. Chan also acknowledged that Yale-NUS's high costs is another reason for the merger, but stressed that it wasn't the main motivation.
The cost of education of a YNC student today is more than double that of a humanities or science student in NUS. Likewise, both tuition fees and government funding are more than double. Merging YNC and USP to form the new college therefore allows NUS to combine the best elements of both sides and to achieve economies of scale to allow us to scale this experience to many more students in part or in full across the NUS.
Also, according to Mr. Chan, the decision to announce the merger as early as possible was discussed and jointly determined by both NUS and Yale University. He said current students and staff were not consulted because discussions concerned sensitive issues of strategy and finances.
In early July 2021, NUS initiated discussions with Yale University. Yale acknowledged NUS' vision to bring together both YNC and the USP into a new college that would not bear Yale's name. The YNC leadership was informed in the same month. The NUS Board of Trustees endorsed the decision in early August 2021, and the YNC Governing Board endorsed the transition plans in late August. While the partnership would only end in 2025, both parties felt that the responsible thing to do was to announce it early rather than to hold back. It would have been bad faith to delay the announcement and continue to admit students who would not be able to complete their education in YNC or to continue to hire faculty beyond this juncture.
Reassuring students, parents and alumni that the stature of the college's degree would not be affected even after the partnership ends in 2025, Mr. Chan said NUS will keep providing supporting documentation, letters of recommendation or referees if alumni need them. Responding to questions on recurring lapses uncovered by the Auditor General's Office, Second Minister for Finance Indrani Raja said 2 officers from the Culture, Community and Youth Ministry were given official warnings and their performance assessments affected after admitting to fabricating claims records. NCCY, the Ministries of Home Affairs and Education, HDB and the People's Association, while these 5 agencies were flagged for irregularities and possible falsification of documents in the AGO's July report for the 2020-2021 financial year.
MCCY and PA were investigated for the fabrication of records. MCCY's internal investigation has concluded. 2 MCCY officers admitted to fabricating claims records for services rendered by external parties, as the officers could not locate the records when requested by AGO. However, the investigation verified that the claims were valid and that the services were in fact rendered. So while the claims were real, the conduct of the officers in fabricating the claims records was wrong.
Well, in separate cases, People's Association staff who may have falsified quotations and doctored documents were suspended from duties. Irregularities in contractors' records provided to MHA led to one contractor being charged in court and the other given a 12-month conditional warning. Two MHA officers are also undergoing internal investigations for the lack of due diligence. Investigations are ongoing as well at MOE and HDB. You can visit straitstimes.com for more on what was raised in Parliament today, including a proposed law to counter foreign interference in Singapore politics. 5 bus services will be suspended from Wednesday due to a manpower crunch blamed on COVID-19. Bus operator Go Ahead Singapore announced the affected express services are 12E, 43E and 518, while the affected City Direct services are 661 and 666. But trunk bus services 12 and 43 will continue to run. The suspension comes after the Land Transport Authority said last week that commuters should be prepared to wait longer for some buses, with a few hundred drivers down with COVID-19 or placed under quarantine or stay-home notice. 12 new cases were added to the clusters linked to staff at bus interchanges, bringing the total to 670 cases as at last night. Toa Payoh bus interchange has the most cases with 212, followed by Boon Lay at 190 cases. Bishan has the least number of cases with 39. And taking a quick look at other clusters in Singapore, MOH announced a new one last night, 28 cases at the DHL Centre near Paya Lebar, while the Chinatown Complex cluster now has 81 cases. The cluster at Hu Li Impact stands at 54 and 30 Sunview Way construction site currently has 140. And the number of serious cases requiring oxygen supplementation in hospitals has increased from 35 to 54 in a day. Among these seriously ill patients, 50 are seniors above 60 years old. 7 other patients are in ICU, and in total, there are 780 patients in hospital as at last night. Across the causeway, Malaysia's parliament also sitting today for 17 days until October the 12th and is the first under the newly minted government led by Prime Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob. Officiating the start of the session, the King said efforts for bipartisan and consensus approach in managing the nation is the way forward, adding that he welcomes the government giving the opportunity to others, including MPs, to take part in the administration, noting that such a mature approach in governance was what the people wanted. Well, Malaysia Bureau Chief Shannon Teoh is here with more. Welcome back to the show, Shannon. So the King called for bipartisan and consensus approach. Did we see that in this confidence and supply agreement that was signed just minutes ago? What's the latest there?
Well, strictly speaking, yes, this has happened because an agreement was signed. Now they're calling it the Memorandum of Understanding on Transformation and Stability. So it's not being called a confidence and supply agreement per se, but in structure, it is about ensuring that the government remains stable, so that ostensibly so that it can fight the COVID-19 pandemic and not be distracted by political issues. Then yes, this is in effect, a CSA. So now what we have there is that we have some items outlined by the Prime Minister saying that the things that will be part of the deal will be that there will be a better COVID-19 response, transformation in governance, democratic reforms, and so on and so forth. There are about 6 different points. What we don't know yet is that what do the opposition do? What their end of the bargain. So are they supposed to vote in favor of the government in confidence and supply motions? Or are they just supposed to abstain, so on and so forth? So those details are not out yet. That would be in the MOU document proper, right? So, and that's not been made public yet. So they just inked it about 15, 20 minutes ago. We were waiting to get more details of exactly what was the final agreement.
Well, Shannon, moving forward, what does this agreement or MOU spell for relations across the aisle during this parliament session, as well as, for the rest of the Ismail administration?
Well, for this sitting, I think we're not going to expect many surprises in this sense. They've just inked something which is a great coming together. It's two opposing sides shaking hands. I think we'll see a fair bit of peace and quiet across these 17 days. At least I'm hoping so. But for the rest of the Ismail administration, now that's the question: how long is this administration going to last? People in his own party are saying we should have an election as soon as we can, even though the parliamentary term only ends in 2023. If both sides have signed this in good faith, and if they're committed to actually being, having discussions, having negotiations on important legislation, on the budget, for example, on the COVID response, then I think in good faith, it will see something which, will benefit Malaysians, because you're bringing in all the ideas from both sides on how to tackle the pandemic that has now become, we've got the deadliest wave and we're still recording deaths in the hundreds each day.
Well, Shannon, it's Malaysia's first parliament session for the year. You mentioned, of course, the pandemic, but what are the other hot button topics that we can expect for the next 16 days?
So there are two main things that are going to be debated during this parliamentary session. Right now, it's the royal address. So it's an opportunity for MPs to raise practically any issue under the sun. A lot of it is going to be COVID-19. And let's not forget, this might be a new government, but Ismail Sabri appointed nearly 9 out of every 10 ministers or deputy ministers from the last administration. So it's pretty much the same government moving forward. And the opposition are going to ask about the handling, the response to COVID-19, among many other issues, obviously. One of the other important things that are going to be tabled is the 12 Malaysia plan. Now, this is a 5-year development blueprint, and it's going to outline how Malaysia is going to spend to improve its economy, to develop not just things which have to do with bare economy, but social stuff, infrastructure, public facilities. Now, this was supposed to be tabled last year. In fact, the 5-year plan is 2021 to 2025, and 2021 is nearly done. So it has been delayed because of COVID, and they had to take a step back and look at how the economy, how the entire nation is going to look like as we kind of ease into a recovery now, and then table this plan. So this is going to be an important document for not just this existing government, but whichever government is going to come in after the next election. So these are the two main items. And if this CSA or MOU or whatever you want to call it, if it has been done in good faith, then we should be seeing some really good and constructive debate.
All right, so lots to look out for the next 2 weeks. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Shannon. I've been speaking with Malaysia Bureau Chief for the Straits Times, Shannon Teoh, connecting from KL. Rounding up today's headlines, a 24-year-old Singaporean man who allegedly wakeboarded at the War Memorial Park on July 17th was charged in court with willfully interfering with a national monument. Video of the alleged incident was widely circulated online. If found guilty, he can be fined up to $30,000, jailed for up to 6 months or both. 4 others are also being investigated. A woman was sentenced to 7 months jail for cheating the Ministry of Social and Family Development into giving her $4,000 under the COVID-19 support grant. 32-year-old Tiong Shilin was found to have forged a retrenchment letter and made false declarations of her income and employment status last year. And in sports, an emotional Novak Djokovic coming up short at the US Open final, losing to Daniil Medvedev in straight sets and essentially failing in his bid to win all 4 Grand Slams in the same year. Disappointed, but the 20-time major champion also said he's relieved that his run toward history was finally over.
Relief. I was glad it was over. Because the build-up for this tournament and everything that mentally, emotionally I had to deal with throughout the tournament in the last couple of weeks was just a lot. That was a lot to handle, and I was just glad that finally the run is over. At the same time, I felt sadness, disappointment, and also gratitude for the crowd and for that special moment that they've created for me on the court.
Well, those are our top stories for today. For more news and videos, visit straitstimes.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the red button below. I'm Olivia Quay. See you tomorrow on The Big Story.